Hey, I hope you're having a great day or evening or maybe in the middle of the night. Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I guess that's the whole point behind a podcast. Listen when you like. I'm Scott Linden, your host, also the host of Wing Shooting USA, the television show. Hope you'll watch that as well. Great guest in store for you. Hang on for Ronnie Smith. Yes, that Ronnie Smith. If you got a dog training or a dog care question, we hope to cover it. Maybe some of yours from our Facebook page. You just never know. In addition to Ronnie Smith, we'll have a place for you to go in terms of public access, some hunting strategy and dog handling advice, and a quiz and a prize for somebody out there. It's all here on the Upland Nation podcast, the only podcast that respects your time and promises not to insult your intelligence. In the meanwhile, right before Ronnie, let's thank one more time sageandbreaker.com, one of our sponsors. Sage and Breaker makes high-quality gun cleaning products and accessories for hunters. You know, the easy, simple stuff that you love to have, well, they've got it for you. I was at a training day a couple days ago, actually over the weekend, and I was gunning for other folks. So my gun was a little bit grungy at the end of the day. You know, you put your tailgate down, you want to do at least a quick cleanup there. The problem is the tailgate's metal, the gun's metal, but the metal on the gun is softer than the metal on the tailgate, and that's not even thinking about the wood on your shotgun stock. Sage and Breaker has probably the most beautiful, most functional gun mat I've ever seen, because not only is it a gun mat that rolls up and looks like a fine piece of luggage, but it also stores all the things you need right there. One package, sageandbreaker.com. Sign up, register, get on their mailing list, and they will notify you of new products. There's a whole bunch of them in the works, as well as the few special offers they do. It's all a great value no matter when you go over to sageandbreaker.com. And joining us this week, ESPAmerica.com. These guys make the best hearing protection you'll ever find. It's all made right here, and it's custom fitted at no extra charge. Learn more about saving your ears at ESPAmerica.com. All right, so on top of everything else, it's training time, and so I can't think of a better guy to join us on the podcast today than Ronnie Smith. Ronnie, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
You have more on your plate than most of us do put together. Tell me, kind of bring us up to speed on what's new at Ronnie Smith Kennels.
Well, we've had a big move, Scott. Ronnie Smith Kennels. I'm second generation. My father started it in '56, and my people have been there for over 100 years. And my wife and I have just relocated about 90 miles northwest of Big Cabin, just north of Pawhuska, Oklahoma, where Marie Drummond and the Pioneer Woman lives. So we have moved all operations here and have built a new kennel facility. And I'm 57 years old, and it is the first time that I've ever moved in my life. And, Scott, it is way overrated.
You can have it. In fact, whenever anybody reminds me that they helped me move, I remind them that when it's their turn to move, I'm busy that weekend.
Right.
I caught a piano between the legs going down a pair of stairs many years ago. That kind of soured me to moving anything anymore. But you moved an entire dog training and boarding kennel operation. I mean, what did you learn from that you probably need to share with us so we either don't do it, or if we have to do it, we do it the right way?
Well, I tell you, my sister has moved a lot. She said, let me give you some advice. Get a big dumpster and throw everything away that you haven't used or you find that you didn't remember that you had. My take on the whole situation is if we ever do this again, we're going to have an auction, and we're not going to worry about what didn't bring enough money. We're going to take our check and turn around and walk away.
Words to live by. I think I shared with you a couple weeks ago. That's what my CPA did and advises for anybody looking to move a whole house. But in that whole thing, you did move a bunch of dogs all at one time or maybe several one times. And we're doing that, whether it's going on a hunting trip, taking a dog to Ronnie Smith kennels for training, whatever. What did you learn over and over and over times 20 probably when you were taking dogs a long distance like that?
Yeah, I tell you that it is, during the winter, people are concerned about their dogs being cold when they travel. But Scott, it has been my experience over the years that heat should be your primary concern. It is amazing the amount of heat that a dog can generate in a box if not well ventilated. So that was what we took from it. We moved, 50 some dogs, and we loaded the dogs, and then we had to break the kennels down. So we really were very careful about having very good ventilation, shade, and water for those dogs. I know that even going from Big Cabin to South Texas, it's typically hot when we head down there. So that 12-hour trip, it's amazing how quickly dogs can become dehydrated just with the hot air going by the door of the trailer or the top or whatever it is that you have. So keeping those dogs cool, hydrated, very, very important.
Is there any, especially down in South Texas, and we'll get to that more in a minute, but you're down there a lot, if you need to cool a dog down fairly quickly and safely, is there something you use as a technique that maybe we haven't heard about or we haven't considered yet?
I had tried the cotton balls with alcohol on the stomach and the inside of the ears for heat dispersion or evaporation. I don't know if that really has paid the dividends that I hoped it would. Just to cool the body down with just room temperature water. And in fact, I have cooled down dogs. Just again, if you get their body wet, then you can get evaporation and get rid of the heat. And I have cooled dogs down with warm water because that's all that we had access to. And quite honestly, they came out of it better than dogs that we use too cold of water. If you use ice water out of your ice chest, you can really put them in shock. Mm-hmm. You want to use just a room temperature water if at all possible, and let that wind, that evaporation, cool your dog down.
Yeah, I read just recently, in fact, that the problem with really cold water is it forces all the blood away from the core of the body where it's critical on a stressed dog, all their organs, and out to the extremities, trying to warm up those extremities. And all of a sudden your dog's got probably low blood pressure, among other things.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's good to know. We're on the topic a little bit, and so let's delve into it. Not only are you a world-renowned dog trainer, you've had a little bit of guiding experience at some places I wouldn't mind going to, including a piece of the King Ranch, I believe it was. In your guiding experience, what are some of the things that bubble to the top in terms of what maybe your clients weren't or were doing that maybe we as just schmoes out there in the field ought to be doing more of or doing less of?
What I see as far as a dog owner is concerned is a lot of times when we make these big trips to where the wild bird pocket is that year, our dogs are not physically in condition, nor are they mentally in shape. The physical condition enables you to run your dog for 3 or 4 days or however long your hunt is. And if he's not in shape, boy, a day and a half and you're out of dog. And if you're out of dog, then you're just walking. The mental aspect of it is, dogs have been off all summer and they're not focused and intent on finding birds. And Scott, I've guided hunts in Texas for 38 years. And the single most profound thing that I have gathered from that whole experience is that if your dog is not thinking about finding birds when his feet hit the ground, he's not going to be that bird producer that we all want. You can have a dog with a high level of training and still not have a bird finder. You could take a dog, a young pup, and if he's thinking birds, really focused on finding birds, he's going to find more birds than the dog that's out of shape and not focused.
Boy, I understand completely. And Ronnie, on your website these days, one of the pictures at the top, there is a wire hair with a more intense look on his face than any wire hair I've ever owned or met. I think that's part of it. But we can't just have a locker room talk before the game like a football coach would. What do we do to get that dog to focus?
Birds.
Yeah.
Birds make a dog. You know, if you take that dog and at least 2 weeks, 2 months is ideal, but at least 2 weeks before you go on your hunt, start getting him exposure to birds again. Get his fire lit and get his focus on game, and get him mentally in shape so that he can last the time that you're hunting. And I promise you, your dog will produce more birds, and you'll have a much better hunt.
You talked about conditioning, and many of us have learned that the hard way, and will never do it again the wrong way. But conditioning a dog, there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of philosophies behind it. If we're, kind of an average guy and we hunt, 2 days a week on the weekends or thereabouts, even those kind of dogs need to get in better shape, most likely. What are the ways that we should be doing that you've figured out over the years? You're our guinea pig, Ronnie. You guys have been doing it over there for so long. What do you do these days that we should do?
We do a combination of things, Scott. We do a lot of roading, where we have a dog in a roading harness, and it's like resistance training, if you will. And we have a roading rack that we have on a Polaris Ranger, so that it will facilitate 4 to 6 dogs. And we vary the speed with which we road. There are times that we're going slow so that those dogs will really drop their head and really lean into that roading harness and pull. But then not all dogs will pull at that speed. So some of those dogs will just walk at that time. So then we'll speed up, and then those dogs will engage and really start to dig and pull. And again, I think the changing of speed, you get a better workout. You get the respiration up a lot better as well. So we do a lot of roading. We also do some swimming. We had there at Big Cabin, we don't at the new facility yet, but we had a rope across a small body of water, probably wasn't 20 feet across, but we would put the dogs on that rope and then swim them in this water. It was on a pulley, and let them tread water. We had a young man from Canada who apprenticed with us, and he did the sled racing. And this is how he conditioned his dogs, and he had a full log of times that those dogs would swim. And it was low impact. It was a great way to start dogs that were just coming out of the backyard or the kennel. Low impact, really, really a great way to condition your dogs.
Yeah, especially in that warmer weather out here in the desert, or even where you are probably. I know you've got some water over there now, but it's just hard to find. But when you do, you really ought to take advantage of it. Just for the record, a lot of those dogs that you're putting in the water that are actually swimming are probably English pointers, and that in itself is surprising, at least to a lot of us.
Right.
Birds it's easy to talk about how important birds are, but it's harder for a lot of us to either obtain them or, once we get them, to use them the right way. If we're, let's say we've got a semi-mature dog. He's 2-3 years old, and he's been around a couple seasons. What kind of bird work is most important for us to focus on those 2 months before the season?
Yeah, again, the most important thing is don't lose sight of your objective. I think we all fall prey to, when we go to the field and we put birds in the field, we have a tendency to get a hunting mindset, if you will, and I would encourage folks not to do that, because that's not what it's about. Your objective is to get your dog focused and intent on finding birds. So if you can keep that as your focal point, then it takes all the guesswork out of it. So with that being said, we want our dogs to be successful. So obviously we want to work into the wind. We don't want to have a cover so tall that a dog can't smell. And if you have a shotgun in your hand, then you're thinking about shooting birds, and you're really not paying attention to your dog. You don't have to kill birds to get your dog focused and intent on finding birds. You just have to present them in a successful manner, so that he can consistently have success and get focused. So, even if that means you need to bring your dog in on a rope, even though he's an advanced level dog, if that's what it takes to get him to quarter and come laterally through that scent and be successful, then that's what you need to do. And once you get him focused, then he can be the dog that he is. You can turn him loose and go find birds. And once he's really dialed in, then you can go to shooting birds and working on his retrieving.
Well, hold those thoughts, because we're just getting warmed up here at the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden. That's Ronnie Smith, renowned trainer. You maybe have seen him at Pheasant Fest, or you've got his DVDs. All of the above have inspired me for quite a while, and then I was lucky enough, a couple years ago, to Kathy's place. We had that gathering, and you ran a seminar. It was very useful. I'm still using those techniques every day. Ronnie, if you'll just hold on for a moment, we'll talk about point of contact, silent command, and all sorts of other things that you guys work your magic with. Right now, I'm going to take a quick break for you, Ronnie. You're going to take the quick break, and I'm going to talk about our sponsor, and that would be Dakota 283, kennels, storage gear, and all sorts of other things that your dog will appreciate. Make note of these special codes. Linden FI is the first one, just for Upland Nation listeners. If you got a puppy coming in, get the Forever Insert. Linden FI is where you get it. It will make your big G3 Dakota 283 kennel into a small one until he grows into the big one. If you have a full-size dog already, then get the G3 kennel and a free Dine and Dash, storing food and water. The joy of Dakota 283, cleanup is a breeze with extra wide holes pre-drilled. You can just hose it out. You might want to remove the dog first. And Dogtra. Dogtra's got a brand new 2-collar system. They call it the Dual T&B, or T&B Dual. I'm using it here at the Linden Kennels. I can put one of those collars on Flicker's waist and one on his neck, so we can teach steadiness and retrieving at the same time. Beeper, tone, vibrate, and the usual stimulation. T&B Dual is the name of the new Dogtra collar. Find out more about it and get free shipping at dogtra.com. The T&B Dual. It's my go-to training collar here at the Upland Nation. All right, so we are back. And with luck, Ronnie, you're still on the line there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent, good, because we're into our handle it question. Every week on the show, we try to address a dog handling question that is of interest to a whole bunch of our viewers, and sometimes it's dog care, sometimes it's dog handling. But with you on board today, the first time I actually understood what you were talking about was at a Pheasant Fest, where you worked some real magic with what you call a half hitch, and the whole idea of a point of contact being the flank of a dog. Can you just kind of explain the philosophy behind that?
So the half hitch, it relates to the wool post, and that is how we're teaching a dog basically to stand still, to just stand still. And once we can build that point of contact on the flank with the half hitch, and cue it mechanically with the rope, and a dog stands still for as long as we want him to, then we can tell him that that's called whoa, then we name it. So, and we do the same thing, Scott, on the neck. We build a point of contact on the neck for the movement commands. for heeling, quartering, and coming to us. So with two separate points of contact, what we have found is that we're not worried about having dogs confused because we have two separate spots on a dog's body that, when cued, means separate things. And two, what it's helped us overcome is we have a dog that maybe has had some conditioning on the neck prior to his arrival at our facility. By using a separate point of contact, we're able to overcome or reshape certain behaviors. So it is possible to build a spot on anyone, dog or man, and when you touch it, you get a conditioned response, or you get a reaction, you get behavior. And by being able to do that, you can get consistency that in turn or in time will turn into behavior.
All right, just for the record, because you just said something I wish I'd heard about 2 years ago when I brought my new puppy along. The point of contact on the flank is used for totally different commands than the one on the neck. Am I hearing that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so give us an idea of which is for what and which is for other whats.
Sure. So the point of contact on the flank is that point of contact is established with a half hitch on the flank with the woe post. And that is, again, to just have a dog standing still. So if we can cue that point of contact and have a dog stand perfectly still, we can then name it, tell him that's called woe, and we can enforce his honoring another dog's point, and then we can steady him up on his game. And then the point of contact on the neck for heeling, quartering, and recall or coming to us, that's obviously we can get him to do all of those disciplines. And what we do is we practice both of those points of contact until they become behavior. And once it becomes behavior, then the point of contact is moot. It's no longer necessary. You can enforce behavior on any part of the body. So we then will take the e-collar, the training collar, and leave it on the neck to enforce learned behavior.
All right, so let's make sure that we're on track here. I've got a couple questions. Well, actually, the first question is not a question at all. It's from a listener, Jerry Imprevento, who just says, amazing insights. He's a great guy. What an awesome personality. Okay, so Jerry, you scored points with Ronnie, so next time you see him, he'll probably shake your hand. But this one from David Clore, who really wants to know a little bit more about how the woe post works in your situation. And I know I've watched it, and one of my dogs has been through a little bit of that with you and then with me. It's a long and I guess I'll call it a consistent process, but clue us in on the woe post regarding the half hitch and any other uses for it.
Right. So it's a very controlled environment with which to make a dog stand still. And so we'll bring a dog into the woe post. We'll put the half hitch on his flank, snap it into his existing collar, and let him take half a step and feel the pressure of this half hitch on his flank. And again, it's a very controlled environment, so he's not able to go forward or backwards or laterally. Because it is such a controlled environment. So it's easy to convey or associate what it is that you're trying to associate to the dog, and that's merely to just stop and stand still. And then in time, what happens is they learn to turn that stimulation off by stopping and standing still. So now you have a point of contact, being the flank, and the conditioned response to turn that stimulation off is to stop and stand still. And by having that ability, once we come off the woe post and we can put the training collar around their flank, the remote cue, instead of the mechanical cue of the rope, we now have the remote cue of the training collar. So now we can stop a dog perfectly still at any distance and in real time. And the ability to do that gives us the consistency that is necessary for proper association for whatever it is you're trying to convey, whether it's whoa or honoring a dog's point or steadying them up on their game.
That's Ronnie Smith, Ronnie Smith Kennels. You might recognize the family name, Uncle Delmar, your dad, Ronnie Smith Sr., and that other, what's that other guy's name? Rick, that's right. As a team, you guys cannot be beat. You've got so many great ideas about training, and then some great products as well. We haven't even gotten to the command lead, which we will in a moment. But in the meanwhile, RonnieSmithKennels.com is where you get more information on DVDs and seminars that are coming up. I've attended one. I strongly suggest, if it's anywhere near you, that you get to one, because it will change your way of thinking about dog training and how dogs think themselves. So my little plug for my friend Ronnie, because this stuff is what makes a dog a real hunter, and it only happens when you expose yourself to a lot of ways of thinking and a lot of ways of doing the stuff that we're trying to get our dogs to do. Speaking of the seminars, Ronnie, you know, you deal with dozens and dozens and dozens of people at those seminars over the year. What are the biggest challenges people like us have when we come to one of those, in terms of what problems do we really want to solve?
Yeah, you know, Scott, I think the largest hurdle that I am seeing with people and their dogs now are kind of an anthropomorphic mindset, if you will, and that basically is just putting human tendencies towards an animal, applying human tendencies towards an animal. And in everyone's defense, I completely understand it, because if you get on the internet, you see a lot of that. And then the other side of the coin is a lot of people, almost without exception, almost 100% of our clientele are urban based. They live in cities, because that's where you can make money. That's where the jobs are. So, and we're seeing families now that are, you know, second, third, fourth generation urban environment folks that have really never been around animals, and don't really understand the animal that's in their house, and they're basing the relationship with that animal on the only relationship that they've ever had, and that is relationships with other people. So I see how it can be misapplied or misunderstood. So I think that's probably, in the last 10 years, is the largest obstacle that we have encountered with people, is just really and truly getting to know the animal that's living in their house, realizing that a dog is thinking for the moment, and trying to put yourself inside that dog and see things in his perspective, not yours.
You know, if I had a nickel for every time I saw the words fur baby on Facebook, I wouldn't have to be doing this for a living. But there is all of that and more, and we're not going to go off on that tangent. But you said something just now that really struck a chord with me. Thinking about how a dog thinks, and you use one term, I use the term linearly. They're in the moment, and all they're thinking about is the very next thing they want to accomplish. Am I correct? Am I on the same wavelength as you on that?
Absolutely.
It's just amazing to me how many people think their dog can put A and B and C and D together and then immediately jump to E or Q. But somebody summed it up for me a while back very, very succinctly. They said a dog, really only wants to do what it wants to do. It's not out to please us per se, except when that ultimately leads to pleasing them. So how do we do that? How do we understand a dog's thinking process slightly better? I'm not asking for a whole lifetime's worth of wisdom in one podcast, Ronnie Smith, but is there one observation, or do we just watch more carefully?
Yeah, I think that to really watch, and observe your dog and how he acts and reacts to stimuli. And two, to put it in perspective, that he is a pack animal, and he just needs to know where he is. Is he at the bottom of this pack, or is he at the top of the pack, or is he in the middle? There are some dogs that are genetically predisposed to be alphas, leaders, and those dogs, a lot of times you have to manage through their life because they're again genetically predisposed to be a leader of a pack. But probably 80% of all of the dogs fall well below that. So remember, your dog's a pack animal, and he needs a leader, and that is you. And to be a leader doesn't mean that you have to be rough or hard to get along with or demanding. It would be just like the boss that we would all like to have. As somebody that knows what he's doing, is confident and consistent, but fair. I have an analogy that I use, Scott, and that is, I like to fly. I love to fly. I love to see the earth from above, and it's just fascinating to me. But I am deathly afraid of heights. So as long as everything's going well, and that would be not having any turbulence, I'm fine, having the time of my life. But as soon as we hit some turbulence, I have a very anxious mind, if you will. I am really struggling to keep it together. So I look at the leaders, and it's not the stewardess, because they're professionals and they have their game face on. It's the guys wearing the suits, the guys that fly all the time. And if you can look at them and they're still reading their newspaper or looking at their computer, then it's business as usual. And that doesn't mean that I don't have that anxiety, but I know that we're okay. And that's the leader that you need to be, is one that is consistent and calm and fair, and try not to, if your dog is in a fearful situation, don't try to console it, because you just positively influence or reward that feeling or behavior. Just be calm and be yourself, and let that dog look to you for consistency, even though what he is feeling is real, but you're not helping him by treating him like a person.
So you want to be the good example, if you will, to a great degree. You want to be the guy in the suit, and you want to be walking your talk, if you will. And this is as good a place as any to remind you that we are brought to you in part by ESPAmerica.com. Hearing loss from range noise, or even in the field, enough shots on a good day, is all cumulative. You cannot earn it back. You cannot take a pill. You cannot get a shot, and you cannot do enough exercises to restore your hearing. Protect it from the get-go. I know it's a headache, because sometimes they are falling out and you're losing them. Well, at ESPN, audiologists will fit your ears custom just to your ears. They will mold and make those hearing protection devices so they will not fall out. Find out more at ESPAmerica.com. And let me remind you also, the new T&B Dual collar from Dogtra. The joy of it is no toggling back and forth. You got two sets of controls right there in front of you. You can hit one set of controls for one dog with your thumb and the other with your fingers. It is probably the smartest thing I've seen happen to dog collar handheld transmitters ever. Find out more at dogtra.com, and remember, always free shipping at dogtra.com for any purchase over $200. Tell me a little bit about this command lead, because, I come from another world where we use those in a slightly different way, and I know Uncle Delmar is still a little bit fond of that world as well. That's the rodeo business. Tell us how it works and why it works.
That's a great question, and I'm not sure that I can definitively answer that, but here we go. Scott, what we believe, it's basically a loop. It's a rope, and it's a loop, and you put it on. But if you think about it, choke chain is the same concept. And why do we feel that the command lead or the wonder lead works better than that? And all that I can contribute that to is it's one contiguous piece of rope, and your timing is just faster. So you get better association with it. In like on heeling, when you teach a dog to heel, you make a cue when the dog gets out of position. And what most people don't realize, though, it's the release or the slack where the dog learns where he's supposed to be. The cue gets his attention and gets him back in position. But when you release the pressure, that is what teaches him where he needs to be. And I just think that rope lends itself to that very well.
Yeah, there is no delay, and just for everybody's benefit, cue in this case means a little tug on the lead itself, right, Ronnie?
That is correct.
So you're given the cue, and it's instantaneous because there's no slack, if you will, and then same for the release because this lead is stiff. The loop opens back again immediately after you stop the tug. And it can work wonders. I've seen dogs that could never walk alongside their owner as if somebody flipped a switch. It just makes so much sense. And I'm still grateful for mine. Thank you very much, by the way. You train a lot. You train hunting dogs a lot. You guide hunting. Do you ever get to hunt for fun?
No, not really. I tell you, I've tried that. When I was younger, I did. I used to hunt a lot and thoroughly enjoyed it. But now, Scott, really, I really enjoy just working the dogs and running the dogs, and seeing them develop and trying to take them to the top of their game. In that big country with wild birds, and I really enjoy that.
You sound like so many people who some of us have been lucky enough to meet in any profession. It might be your scoutmaster, it might be your football coach, could be a great teacher of something. They get as much or more out of actually helping other people do it, or in your case, other people and their dogs, as they used to get out of doing it themselves. Is there a different kind of satisfaction there?
No, I think it's exactly the same. I really enjoy handing a dog back to somebody, and the dog is completely different, but in a positive way, is now a good citizen and more mannerly, and able to maybe take their children to the field and build that experience and that desire, and create life memories. Wow, it doesn't get any better than that.
Boy, that's a nice way to put it, because we're only on this world for a limited amount of time. May as well have a lot of fun while we're doing it and create those memories. We haven't talked at all about something that a lot of people maybe put more emphasis on than you or than I do, and that is early puppy training. I've heard you refer to little puppies that are clearly 8 and 10 months old, but what about that earliest few weeks of a dog's career? Anything in particular we should be careful about, or that we should make sure we're definitely doing?
As far as a young puppy goes, I think I'll address when he comes into your home. And we're trying to train them. Just be consistent. Really, I know people don't want to put their dog in the puppy in the crate because he's crying to get out, and I understand that. But in time, that will become his den. That will become his place. And by doing that, and then walking outside and putting him out and getting that consistency, then you'll have a much richer life, and so will he. As he grows up in your home. I think really try to focus on a good recall while they're young and work on their retrieving. Scott, the dogs that we get in, that retrieving, that natural retrieving was nurtured at a young age and nurtured correctly, almost without exception, all of those dogs become good natural retrievers when they're older. Be careful about squeaky toys. Dogs love them because it's primal. As they're biting down on this squeaking object, it is primal, and it can promote a dog to be a little bit hard mouthed. Not with all dogs, not always, but it is a higher percentage that can happen. So be careful about the squeaky toys, and just be consistent. Be consistent with your dog. If rules and boundaries make us good citizens, let us know where our place is, and then prepare us to learn later. We're seeing a lot of dogs that nothing was ever asked of at a young age, and then when they come in for training, they have a hard time mitigating stress or pressure because they've never had to learn anything. So that little mind is a sponge. Set boundaries and be consistent with it. I know you shouldn't say this, but it's much like raising children. Just be consistent, be fair, set boundaries, and adhere to them.
The only difference being on your kids, only use the vibrate function on your electric collar.
I'm afraid to even respond.
No. If there are any lawyers out there, that was a little joke, okay? Well, we're out in the field. We got a dog we're pretty proud of for one reason or another, but it's just not our day, Ronnie. By the way, you're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. That's Ronnie Smith, a well-known trainer. More information about him and his operation at ronniesmithkennels.com. You can get more about us at uplandnation.com, and that's where you download the podcast as well. But Ronnie, so I got a dog in the field, and I made the fatal mistake of bragging on my dog before I put the tailgate down, and now he's just not delivering. In fact, it's not just bad; it's really bad. Should we be trying to reinforced training out there in the bird field when we're hunting, or should we just put that dog back in the box?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think let's step back a little bit, Scott. I think a lot of times, and especially what we'll do with a dog that maybe has a high prey drive and short attention span and prey drive off the charts, and he's anticipating going to the field or going hunting, and you loaded him, and he senses all of this. He knows what's going on, whether it's how you smell. I fully believe that they pick up on that. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. But we get out to the field, and if you just drop the tailgate, he is scatterbrained. He is not focused. And it can really get away from you. And then if you're not careful, you can confuse that dog. So what we'll do is we teach all of our dogs to heel. And the reason is because it's the onset of getting a dog to go with you in the field. If you can get him to walk beside you first on a loose lead, then it's just an extension to the field. But we'll jump him out of the truck and have him heel for just a moment. Until he's proficient at that. And what that does is he punches his time card and he gets focused. And then we've got his attention and we're able to go out in the field and get something done. The first part of your question, if it does fall apart, you're better off to just quit and regroup, get your mind together, and then maybe pull him back out the second time and try what I've just mentioned about getting his attention first before you start any type of activity.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I wish I was more disciplined about it, but it does work once in a while, and it does, as you said, focus a little bit. You also talk a lot about intensity and manners, and those seem to be polar opposites sometimes. Manners, maybe we're misconstruing it. Are we talking about obedience here, or are we talking about something beyond that?
Well, so there is a fine line between having that dog that is obedient and mannerly, and a dog that is out of control, and the line that we try to peak at. We try to have a dog to where he is obedient and mannerly, but he's a little edgy. And what I mean by that is he's just on the cusp of maybe being unraveled. And that mindset is going to be your most or best producing mindset. I think it's much like a professional athlete. Obviously he has the God-given talent to be the athlete that he is, a world-class athlete. But mindset is what separates him from everyone else. And we do the same with the dogs. So we want a dog that's mannerly and composed, and we also want a dog that has intensity that's just off the charts, because that's what's going to carry him through or drive him through those periods that maybe you're not finding birds, or maybe it's hot, or maybe you're in greenbrier, or the grass burrs are 40 bushel to the acre. All of those adverse conditions, that intensity and that drive is what will push him through that.
You touched again on something that's been bothering me for a while, and I can't think of anybody better to ask about this than you. With all of that experience down in South Texas, you are dealing with cactus, javelinas, roadrunners, and those sandburrs. How do you handle particularly the sandburr question down there? Because they seem to be coming further and further north. I literally ran into them twice last season, and I was nowhere near your country. Do you boot your dogs? And if you do, what kind of boots are you using?
Yeah, absolutely we do. If your dog has his feet on his mind, he is not going to find you many birds. And stress is an intensifier, so it will adhere to whatever it can. So if he gets stressed because of it, then he's going to really get his feet on his mind, and or he's going to get hot. Stress will grab whatever it can. So we don't push a dog. Well, and I'll tell you too, if you're going to be hunting for 2 or 3 or 4 days, you might get by the first half a day or even the first day, but I guarantee you the second and the third day, he is so sore-footed he can't go, and then it's too late to boot. So we use a Cordura, 1,000 denier Cordura boot, and it's a double layer boot. It's the T.E. Scott boot is what I have used for probably, 25 or 30 years. I like that boot because it's fast to put on, and as soon as I run my dog, I take it off and let them lick on their feet. That rubber loose boot is a wonderful boot, but it's not necessary where I run. I know I had run in some country in Arizona where I needed that rubber loose boot. Those Cordura boots, they wouldn't last 2 hours. But we boot those dogs if the burrs are bad at first indication that they've got their feet on the mind. I'll call them to me, and I'll pull the burrs out of their feet and then put boots on them, and then we'll go on. And as season progresses, those burrs will dry up and not be an issue typically the last half of season or January or February.
The running joke out here is those Cordura boots last about 2 hours on the lava rock that we hunt on for chuckers most of the time, unless they fall off before then. So how do you, I'm presuming that boot has a little Velcro attachment or something, I don't know, but do you go beyond that? Do you do any taping or wrapping or anything else?
I do not. I bet that I haven't had 10 boots fall off in 38 seasons, and that's running, 16 dogs a day, or booting 16 dogs a day, sometimes 24 dogs a day. Put it on with that Velcro. You can put it on as tight as you possibly can, and then squeeze it, and you will not injure your dog. Now, again, when you put him in the truck, you need to pull those boots off, because if you don't, they're going to go to biting at them and picking at them and chewing them off. Most people are not putting those boots on tight enough.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, and that probably is why we lose so many before they wear out. Ronnie, it's been a wonderful time. You know, we could do this for hour after hour, but you have important things to do besides talk to me here at the Upland Nation podcast. If you're going to leave us with one single piece of dog training, dog care advice, something that maybe we should, put on a bracelet and wear on our left wrist so we see it every day, how would you close our discussion?
I think I would encourage people to really read their dogs for what they are. I tell everybody, a dog is like a book just reading. If you will truly get to know your animal and how he reacts in certain situations and stimuli, he'll tell you how to train him. He'll tell you when to back off or when to push. It takes all of the guesswork out of it. So, again, a dog is like a book. Just learn to read him.
Well, some of us could stand to read a few more books, and if one of them has 4 legs and is our hunting buddy, all the better. Ronnie Smith, RonnieSmithKennels.com is where you learn more about him and all the seminars and everything else. It's so fun, and I wear out this whole analogy, but so fun to talk with people on this podcast who I get to talk with for 90 seconds at Pheasant Fest or in an airport lounge or something like this. Thank you so much for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast, Ronnie.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you. All right. And with that, we are on to our next adventure here. Let me bring you right up to speed, though, if you are preparing for this season and your dog is kind of slowing down here and there and perhaps needs a pick-me-up in the field, well, it's easy for you. Just crack a Red Bull or have another cup of strong coffee. Your dog, I'm not talking about the same kind of chemical reaction. Your dog gets his energy from fat. The problem is very few things you can put in your dog's mouth that have fat in them are also very low volume, so they're not clogging up his innards and slowing him down. That's where my dog energy bar comes in. It is 51% fat, and it is light and easy to digest. DogEnergyBar.com. You'd think I'd know it by now. DogEnergyBar.com is where you go. For more information, take a look at the nutritional composition, and then with luck, you'll be trying it this season, and your dog will be outrunning you, which may not be too hard if it's my dog. All right, I promised you some public access information, and once again, here we are with our This Land is Your Land feature. I'm giving you some of the lowdown on some of the higher up places that I like to go that I think could stand a little bit more attention from ethical, conservation-oriented bird hunters like you. Hint, hint. One of my favorite places is Huron, South Dakota. Little small town, kind of in the north central, kind of leaning towards the east, the upper right-hand corner of South Dakota. Huron and the people there have been friends to me for many, many years. On top of their great Ringneck Festival and Bird Dog Challenge, they have excellent walk-in area access, some controlled hunting areas, and some waterfowl production areas. And I got to tell you, those are the ones I like the most out there, because most of the time, by the time you and I are going out looking for pheasants or sharptails, and they're both out there, all the duck hunters are long gone, and all the pheasant hunters are looking for the bigger places to hunt, and poof, you got it all to yourself. There's also a great set of map books out there for South Dakota, so you can literally open the book to the county you're in, or even to the city, and just follow the lines to the blue spots or the brown spots or the yellow spots or the green spots. It's all open to public access. Some are walk-in areas, some are controlled hunting areas, some are waterfowl production, whatever they are. Huron, South Dakota is a great place to do it. I talk about how friendly they are out there. One time I was stuck at a 4-way stop. They're all 4-way stops out there. All these section lines are 1 mile square. The guy to my right had a dog trailer and a pickup truck, and he waved me through, and I waved him through, and he waved me through, and I waved him through. I finally said, "This is crazy." I stopped, got out of the truck. He said, what are you doing? I said, "Oh, I just wanted to say hi. Here we are having fun with our waving." And he said, what are you doing? I showed him the map. I said, I'm going right here. And he said, well, why are you going there? Well, because it's public access and it looks like a good spot to hunt. And he says, how about that spot right there, pointing to the right? And I said, yeah, but it's private property. And he said, yeah, but it's mine. Let's go. That's the joy of Huron, South Dakota. All my friends in Huron, South Dakota are, well, a lot like that. And that's good enough reason for me to visit a place like that. All right. That tells me that the end of the show is nigh. I hope you enjoyed it. The last thing we have to cover is probably the most important one. At least it is for Roger Smith, who won a season supply of dog energy bars just by answering this trivia question at the Wing Shooting USA Facebook page. In what year was South Dakota's first pheasant hunting season? Yeah, it was 1919, and we are celebrating this year. I'll be back there. Maybe you'll be back there as well. This week's question, name one of the states where you can hunt scaled quail. The prize this week, an e-collar by Big Leash. One of the states you can hunt scaled quail. Good luck. Send your answers to me at scottlindonoutdoors@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed Ronnie's insights. Thank you again, Ronnie Smith, for all your help over the years. And thank you all for listening. I hope you will tell your friends, and I hope you will subscribe to the Upland Nation podcast. Until next time, we'll see you at the uplandnation.com website or in the field.